Welcome to episode 28 of the podcast Hot Mess to Great Success. My name is Dr. Jennifer Gardella, and I am your host. I developed this podcast for anyone who needed a little bit of private inspiration in their life. Maybe you are struggling to get it together after a big life event, such as a divorce, a move, new children in the home, children leaving the home, or perhaps you are on your own for the first time in some other way. I also developed this for someone who may not have a support system who can support them through whatever that big change is. And it's just good to know that someone else is struggling through it. I do a ton of reading, I do a ton of listening to podcasts and YouTube videos and lots of different sources of information. And what I do here in my podcast is I share with you the best of the best. So today, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the concept of squirrel syndrome. Now, this is something that I really struggle with in my business and in my personal life. In my personal life, I may come down to clean the kitchen and I wind up back in my business life writing a blog that hit me. I may want to go take out the dog for a dog walk, but first wind up putting in a load of laundry and checking in on some client work. It's a constant struggle. My mind loves to wander. My mind also loves to look up new information. I am a lifelong learner. So I have an unending thirst for searching, Googling, and like I already said, reading. So how do we contain that? How, when we're scrolling through social media, when I'm working on client work on a social media account, I'm a social media and blogging consultant. So how do we contain that? And I think I have figured out a great way. So I am embracing the quote, "Those who wander are not lost." And I will put that quote as well as the author into the show notes when I eventually get to them. Those who wander are not lost. If you have a brain like mine who likes to bounce in different directions, who likes to stop and look things up, you have to give it time to do that. So what I have done is adopted a very simple method. In front of each of my workstations, so I have two primary locations where I work. One in my home office, and then I also do spend a lot of time working on myself up in my kitchen at a laptop. And what next to my workstation and next to my laptop, I have a pad of paper. And so when my mind starts to wander, I start making lists. Now, in the morning, I've talked to you guys about my morning routine. I get up, I do my morning pages, I do my gratitude journal, I then meditate, and I take the dog for a walk. That's my morning routine. But what I'm also adding into that is afterwards, when I'm starting to check my email, especially, which is critical to check your email, I make sure that pad of paper is close by. And so when I start to wander, this can look like, oh, should I join this networking group? I have to research that networking group. And rather than jump on that research right away, I just write it down on my wander pad of paper. It's phenomenal. And then when I'm in a space later on, when I'm in my networking time, I can refer back to it and say, oh, look, I said that I would look at this networking group. Now, sometimes the things that I want to wander about aren't related to anything else that I'm wandering about. That's fine too. No big deal. It could be scrolling through social media aimlessly and you hear about a great show that you need to watch. If you don't have a place to put that information down, just write it on your WonderPad and get to it later. It may be, oh my gosh, I forgot. I have to apply or for a scholarship that I'm with one of my businesses. If it's bugging me, even though I know it's on my goals list, I put it on my WonderPad so it gets off of my mind. This is kind of in line with the idea of morning pages, which is your morning dump of information to get that out of your head so that you can continue with a clearer emotional and psychological state in your day. This has worked wonders for me. I find that on my WanderPad, every week I usually have about 1 page of notes in total. It's not very long, but it's just enough so that I make sure that I'm getting to the things that I want to wander around about, but they aren't consuming time that I've allocated for something else. I am really hoping that you embrace the concept of allowing your mind to wander, however that looks for you. Writers that I talk to, business owners, they wander around sometimes in their profession. They may wander around by writing a blog post. It totally depends. You may have that piece of paper just to make sure you don't forget to always put eggs on the top of the grocery list, or when you come up with a great idea for a Christmas gift for one of your family or friends. However you use it is up to you. So the second thing I want to talk to you about is how do you merge a passion project and a business? I recently came under some very, very harsh fire from someone who was very close to me about the dichotomy in my business of having a passion project, domestic violence advocacy, in my new book, Domestic Violence Awareness, Listen for the Whispers of Abuse, and also running a business as a social media and blogging consultant. This individual was really harsh and said to me that he wasn't even really sure what I did anymore because I had been posting more about domestic violence, which is ridiculous because this person and I were quite close. And they are very well aware that I'm actually bringing on new clients right now. Here's what I want to, the message that I really want to get out there. It's okay if you don't know right now. It's okay that I don't know how I'm blending my passion project and my business. I think I've done a really good job since my book published, jennifergardella.com, on the homepage. It clearly says the social media consultant you can trust and the domestic violence advocate and speaker that you need. I think that's pretty clear, but I'm working really hard to get a lot of opinions. We're going to start working. I'm currently interviewing marketing teams to help me figure out that messaging, because right now I'm too in the weeds with it. And also, I don't want to do that for myself. I want a bigger set of eyes on it. But I want to say I'm giving myself a lot of grace. There are two phenomenal projects, parts of my life that I have. The work that I do with domestic violence survivors, with advocates, the work that I do promoting my local domestic violence center with utter gratitude is work that I cherish. And the way that my book is touching lives, the way that my story can help is exactly what I want to be doing with it. And then my business, I love my business as well. I love that every week, every day, we are helping small business owners with their marketing and social media. They don't have to learn what to do. They trust me because I've been in business as an expert for 10 years. And so overarchingly, I love to get these two groups out of overwhelm and help them feel connected, both to a professional who can help them and an advocate who cares deeply and understands deeply about their current situation. I realize I've got somewhat of a problem to solve. How am I going to blend these two worlds if I only want to keep one Instagram account? You know what? With all the problems in the world, I'm actually honored to have that one. So, first thing we talked about was wandering. The second thing we talked about is having a passion project and a business, and how do you market both of those? And the third thing I want to talk to you about is fear. You know that in 2023, right at the beginning, I took a hard look at fear and said, no more. Fear to me was holding me back. And I really took the words of Wayne Dyer seriously when he said, don't die with the music inside of you. And there was a lot of writing that was hitting me in the beginning of the year, probably because I needed to see it, about the concept of the greatest fear should be not trying or not getting your message out there, which is how my book came about. There's also a different type of fear in the world. And on Friday, I actually had one of the scariest experiences of my life. I was an impact speaker for a local domestic violence fundraiser. supporting my domestic violence center, a woman's place where I received my services. And an individual who is closely connected to my abuser was in the audience. And when I realized it, it was almost like I felt that I was opening up a portal to hell, a portal to my former abuser. Memories didn't flood back. It was more about, I don't want these people in my world. I don't want this man to hear my story. I don't want him to hear my healing journey. I don't want him to hear about my glow up. I don't want him, he doesn't deserve it. He hasn't, I mean, he was part of the utter chaos. And I had a choice to make. At first, I could run away. I would have really disappointed some friends who had asked me to stand in front of the room and tell the story as part of their fundraiser. So that really wasn't an option. I also had the opportunity to really water down my story. And I decided to go in the middle. What was amazing to me is that the devil in the room didn't do the upstanding thing and leave. He stayed. Pretty cheesy. Pretty, well, shows what a complete lack of integrity he has. What was also really telling to me is that this monster, who was part of the circus my abuser created around me once I escaped, was actually at an event supporting the work of a domestic violence center. If you think about it, it's like the greatest form of hypocrisy ever. I don't know if he knew I was going to be there. That would be really pathetic on his part. Again, I thought it was really horrible that he stayed in the room. I would never do that to someone and try to make them that uncomfortable. I actually took pictures of this individual throughout the event as they gave me the death stare. And I couldn't believe it was going on. The depth that these morons, these losers will stoop to is really quite pathetic. So here's what I want to tell you. You can do really hard and scary things. It's actually, I think, the name of Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach's podcast. You can stare the devil in the eye and you can say, you're not going to win today. But you can also realize the fear in your body. You can realize what it brings back to you. Whatever that devil is for you, whoever that monster is in your life, you can stare him down and you can say no more. Now, I had a lot of support in the room and I called it all in. I told friends what was going on and they positioned themselves around the room so that I had kind eyes to look into when I was up there sharing my story. I also had support in the form of text messages from my fiance and two of my best friends in getting through it. And they each provided a different level of support to me. I also had the organizers of the event who asked me to step up in even a bigger way and stare this monster in the eyes and tell him no more abuse. This is what really happened. And here's the last thing I'm going to say. When you've been through some trauma or some unpleasant experience, there's a lot of people that doubt you. And I am hoping that if nothing else, for that monster sitting in the room, probably reporting back to my abuser, that's the kind of jerk he is. I hope he realized that I wouldn't write a book, go through 18 months of painful healing with my domestic violence center, and stand up in front of other people and talk about it with no real financial benefit to me, except if it really happened and I really saw a problem. And I hope that the people that he spent that time with at the event went home and continued to talk about what I said. More of a, wow, can you believe what she had to go through? And it really starts to seep in. I'm very well aware that I can't change people. In my original advocacy work, my goal was to help the abusers heal. But I realized you have to want to participate in your own healing. Maybe the monster in the room was sitting there starting to heal himself. Maybe it was a great way where he could get some accolades by being at an event. I have no idea. But I'm hoping that something got through and I planted even the smallest of seeds. Well, you can see that there's some really big changes going on in my life. There's a shifting of the energy here in October, and I am riding the waves, directing the traffic, and loving absolutely everything that is happening. Every day, I'm learning more and more about myself, more and more how to be successful. And I am having the time of my life with a partner by my side who really supports me. He understands my urge to merge and my urge to be independent. And that is probably the greatest gift he gives to me besides how he cares for my daughters. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest pleasure to bring you these thoughts every week. I am so glad that I have this outlet. Thank you for listening about my thoughts about wandering, about my current opportunity in blending my passion project as well as my business. And thank you for listening to me about my fear. I hope in some way I've inspired you so that the next time that you have to stare fear in the eyes, you have a little bit more encouragement to stand up to the devil and say, "You're not getting me today." Well, until next time, this is Dr. Jenny Lynn. It is my greatest honor to share my thoughts with you, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.